Good morning and welcome to County Executive Stuart Pittman's virtual press conference. Today, the County Executive will talk about a new revitalization grant initiative, provide updates on county operations, and comment on ACPS's upcoming redistricting process. I will take questions after the updates. It's just a reminder to keep your camera and microphone off unless you're called upon for questions. And now I'll turn it over to the County Executive.
Thank you, Renesha. Lot going on this month. It is Heart Month. You can see that I am wearing my heart pin. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in Anne Arundel County, and according to our report, poverty amidst plenty. And so we encourage everybody to eat healthily, exercise, and go to aacounty.org/heartmonth for more information about heart health. It's also Black History Month, and I'm going to be talking about that in a moment. And it's also General Assembly is in session, and I've been over there testifying on bills on progressive taxes, on airport noise, on gun violence, transit-oriented development, and of course the governor's agenda. His bills were just dropped recently, particularly his agenda in public service. So we're looking forward to supporting that as well. Last night, the county council met and passed 7-0 the extension of outdoor dining. The new council is getting going, and it's good to see them all united, voting unanimously on things. We'll see how long that lasts, but we look forward to working with them soon and in the future. And then before I get into some bigger things, I want to note that I've started to do a thing that I'm calling the weekly letter from the county executive that you can access at Pittman's Pen on the aacounty.org homepage. And it is my thoughts about things that go on the fourth floor, and some of the things that may not be newsworthy, but my take on them. And you may find some interesting news there, or maybe I'll make a little news. We'll see. But it's my opportunity to do a bit of writing over the weekends. So let's jump into a new grant program that we're opening up over at Economic Development, Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation. It's called the Arundel Community Reinvestment Tandem Grant, and it is for businesses that are in our commercial revitalization areas. There are 11 of those. You can look at those at aacounty.org/commercial revitalization areas. And there, in addition to those, this is a grant that you can access if you are also on West Street or in Brooklyn Park, where we have a state designated enterprise zone. The grant program is $100,000 loans, maximum 25% of which is forgiven, but it is also combined with some architects, access to architects that we provide, and a tax credit. And it is really for those commercial revitalization areas external. So it's facades and storefronts so I'm going to turn it over quickly to Steve Primush from Economic Development Corporation, who can give us some details about that program.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Yes, at Anne Arundel Economic Development, we are really excited to roll out this program as a new tool in our toolkit for our revitalization program. We do have an existing tax credit that freezes in your taxes if you make improvements to properties in the 11 districts. Loans up at 0%. Up to $100,000, also available for exterior primarily, but also some interior improvements. We have that architect on call that the county executive spoke about, where we can help send an architect out and kind of envision what you want to do to the property, and they'll give you renderings of what it will look before and after to kind of, so you can see the improvements. And then also a grant now up to $25,000 for these improvements. And we're really hoping that this will spur continued redevelopment in our 11 revitalization districts, which are older commercial districts that can always use some improvements. But with the existing program that we hope will generate more capital investment here in the county and our revitalization districts.
All right. Thank you, Stephen. We'll take questions at the end here if people want to do some digging. And you can also contact Economic Development for more information. Affordable rental housing pre-production program. So I have talked a lot, both during the campaign over the last 4 years, and you'll hear even more of this, about the fact that Anne Arundel County has a shortage of housing, particularly housing that is affordable for our workforce. And when I sit down with local businesses, I hear a lot about the need to have housing for folks who are making 60% of median income, which is pretty close to $60,000 a year, 80%, which is pretty close to 80,000, below that and above that, and all income levels really. And so we created a new thing in Arundel County with our federal money seeded Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And we have already started to commit some of that money. A part of the strategy is affordable rental housing. It's not all of the strategy. But this program is to increase production, and it is pre-production costs. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Karpowitz to talk about some of the details about how the program works. But I do want to note that we have about $6 million right now available, a couple of million from the federal home program, and the other part of it, $4 million from our housing trust fund. We have committed already about $7.5 million in this program in the past. It's 742 units that is providing. 440 of those are new, and the other 352 are rehab. We have to continue doing this work, and you'll hear me talk about this in the future, because we are going to have to create a dedicated revenue source for this so that Anne Arundel County can continue to do this work. So I'm going to turn over to Aaron Karpowitz, who's the director of our Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation. Anne Arundel Community Development Services.
Great. Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Yes, we're really excited about this program. As the county executive said, it's utilizing both our home funds from the federal government and the local Affordable Housing Trust Fund that the administration and county council made available to create new units and preserve existing units. And it's going to be one streamlined pre-application process, regardless of the funding source. And so we're inviting qualified developers and nonprofit organizations to come in and apply for this low interest loan financing. And the idea is that it's going to really help us create new units and preserve existing units so that our workforce can access them and older adults on limited incomes can access those affordable units. And they will be primarily available to households earning about 60% of the area median income and below. And we know that there's a need for that because rents have really increased dramatically over the last 3 years here in our county, about 5.6 per year. And that means those rents are compounding each year. So if you were paying $1,600 in rent in 2019, there's a good chance you're paying over $1,880 today for that same unit. And we know that a lot of our neighbors are cost burdened who are renters, especially the neighbors who are at the lower end of the income spectrum. We estimate that about 19% of all renters in our county are spending more than 50% of their income for rent. So that means less money that they have to pay for food, medicine, gas. So with that, this program will open up to our nonprofit partners and for-profit developers who have experience in this development world to apply for the low-cost funding. And we're going to accept the applications on a rolling basis while the funds last. These funds could leverage low-income housing tax credits or other sources from the state financing agency, but they could also leverage local resources. For example, let's say you have a faith-based organization, nonprofit organization that has some land, perhaps some land adjacent to a church, and they might want to donate it and develop it and use it to create affordable units. That's something that could come in. We're prioritizing projects that include some units that are targeting even deeper income limits, going even lower than 60%. So if you're targeting people at 50% of AMI and below or lower, those projects will have priority. We also are prioritizing projects that include more fully accessible units than required, units that are close to transit and other transportation networks. We're encouraging nonprofit developers as well as minority and women-owned development companies to come in and strongly encouraging those applications. And more information can be found on our website at www.acdsinc.org. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Aaron. 3 more items, hang with us. We've got budget town halls, school redistricting, and Black History Month. So away on budget town halls. we have done 5. We have 2 more districts to go, plus the Spanish-speaking town hall, for a total of 8 budget town halls. The ones that are still coming are Wednesday evening in Severna Park High School. I will be with Councilwoman Amanda Fiedler in District 5, hearing from residents. And then on Thursday, I will be with Councilwoman Julie Hummer in District 4 at Arundel High School, both at 6 p.m. So please join us. And I want to note that they've been well attended. We have had, in the 5 we've done, 400 residents attend, in addition to hundreds that have commented online and sent in their budget requests and their budget ideas. You can email those to budget comments at aacounty.org is the email address to send any comments that you have about our budget. But I want to tell you something that I've been telling the residents at each one of these town halls, where they always tell us what they want us to invest in. And the pressures are great. The pressure from our school system is got a numerical value on it. The board will be voting on it, I believe, later this week or in the next week. But the superintendent's budget request is $86 million over last year's budget that we funded. That is more than ever. Last year, we increased it $50 million. I am inclined to take this budget request seriously because it comes at a time when we are almost 200 teachers short. We have a shortage of bus drivers, a shortage of food service staff, and Superintendent Bedell has made very clear that the problem is pay compared to the region. And we can't compete, we can't hire, and we can't retain if we don't pay competitively. So most of that request is actually for compensation increases for school staff. So that's one of our pressures. We're looking at, over last year, $80 million more recurring revenue that we can invest in additional things. But $30 million of that is spoken for by things that we can't, debt service and pensions and things like that we cannot get out of. And that leaves $50 million to invest in our school system and all the rest of county government. So when you go to the budget town halls, you hear from public safety agencies, you hear from people who want parks, we hear from anything and everything that you can imagine. A lot of it is about our personnel, our public servants, making sure that we can recruit and retain them throughout county government. So with only $50 million in new recurring revenue, we cannot address those. So what I've been showing people at these budget town halls is our tax rates, property and income tax, compared to, sorry about the siren, our tax dollars are paying for that vehicle that is loudly passing me right now. Our income tax rate is at 2.81%. 2.71% for your first 50,000 of income, and then it's 2.8 for everything above that. All of our neighbors in the region are at 3.2, which is the state maximum. Our property tax rate is at 93.3 cents per $100 of value, and all of our neighbors in the region are over $1, as were we before we had a tax cap back in the 1990s, early 1990s. So we have to make some tough decisions this year. And no decisions have been made. But as we're asking people to talk about what they'd like us to spend money on, we want them to tell us where it will come from. So stay tuned for more on that. School redistricting is another difficult topic, and I just want to lend my support to the Board of Education and the superintendent. They don't want to do school redistricting. They have to do school redistricting. We have to do school redistricting because we're building new schools and capacity is changing and demographics change, and we need to make sure that we district in a way so that the seats that we have are being utilized, so that we're not wasting taxpayers' money to build new schools if we don't need them. So we have about 16,000 empty seats, we're told, in the county. We have Old Mill High School being built. We have West County Elementary that's being built right now, and we have others coming. And so there will be a process the school board has been very transparent about. The superintendent is being very transparent as well and wants community engagement. So the first major step comes tomorrow, February 8th. You can go to aacps.org/redistricting and there will be some potential scenarios that people can look at. And then there will be comment until May 31st. And then there will be more conversation, more processing. I can just tell you that this is very difficult and heart-wrenching for some families, because there will be children who will be changing schools, and that some people will be happy and a lot of people won't. So I just want to note that it's coming, note that it's necessary, note that we will stand behind our school board and our superintendent as they make very, very difficult decisions. And I hope that you will all enter that process with grace and compassion and understanding that it's one of the necessary things that every jurisdiction has to go through from time to time. Finally, Black History Month is here. Our EDI team, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, has been doing some wonderful events and has also put together a site where you can see what's going on, aacounty.org/Black History Month. And recently just did a social justice movie night that was very well attended. And unfortunately, it was the night of a budget town hall, so I was unable to attend, but I'm looking forward to the next one of those. And then on February 16th, we're doing an annual event with the Caucus of African American Leaders, and we call it the Few of the Many Awards. And we're recognizing 14 African American residents of Anne Arundel County who have done extraordinary work and are actually making Black history, as opposed to looking back on Black history. So that is February 16th at the Blue Heron Center at Quiet Waters. Hope to see you there. You can go to that website at aacounty.org/Few of the Many. So sorry so long today, but back to you, Renisha, for questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. County Executive. Just a reminder, put your name and media affiliation in the chat and I'll call on you in that order if you have questions. All right.
That's what happens when you talk too long.
Yeah,
Answer them
these
all.
are monthly now, so there's lots to talk about on a monthly.
Right, we got a lot to cram in there.
Yeah. Can we start with Dana Munro, Capital?
Yeah, I had a question about the at the county council meeting last night, when they talked about the outdoor dining bill, Stephen Waddy from the NAACP was asking, why is this the one thing from COVID emergency ordinance world that we're continuing to advocate for? Why not the rent stabilization, for example, or other sort of emergency protocols from COVID that helped, make life easier? So I wondered what you thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, we are. I think that was the one bill that was in front of the council last night, and because that required council action. The eviction prevention work, we did send a letter to the state along with some of the other counties advocating very aggressively to continue that. And we have continued with some of our county resources, and we're absolutely aware that right now evictions are accelerating. It is worse now than it was during the height of the pandemic when there were more resources available. And I've been very clear as we talk about the budget that there are things that were federally funded that won't be from here on out. And some of those things are absolutely essential. You may have noticed that Anne Arundel County Food Bank and some of the pantries have been coming to the town halls saying we cannot abandon them in our budget because the need is still there. And we are well aware of that. And those are budget decisions. So last night was a decision about a very specific extension of outdoor dining.
Thank you.
All right, Ken Duffy, WBL.
Hi, County Executive. I know you're not directly involved in the process. But wanted to ask about the school redistricting. There's a northern tier, a southern tier. When you look at the map and eyeballing it, it looks a little confusing as far as why certain areas were included in one tier and not the other. Crofton, Severna Park in the southern tier, yet they surround the Old Mill cluster. Why is this being done in phases instead of in one shot in your mind? I know, again, it's the school's decision to do this, but does it look a little confusing, especially for parents who are trying to figure out where their kid is going to go down the line and why? Does it seem like it should have been done in one shot?
I am going to, we have Bob Moser here from Anne Arundel County Public Schools to answer that, because the decision is, you're right, it was not made by me. So over to you, Bob.
So thank you, Mr. County Executive. And Ken, the decision is really a simple one. A singular phase redistricting in the mind of the superintendent would have simply put too much stress on this school system at a time where we're still dealing with bus issues, we're dealing with teacher shortages, we're dealing with all of the staffing things that have accompanied this school year. To try to redistrict 85,000 students from Brooklyn Park all the way down past Lothian would have simply put too much stress on the school system. So we'll do it in 2 phases. That does bring into play the possibility that students might get touched twice over the course of 3 years. Certainly we're aware of that. We want to try to minimize that as much as we can, but we've decided that the best way to do it is to do it in 2 phases. As to your what's included, what's not included, redistricting is a matter of drawing lines, and no matter where you draw a line, somebody's on the other side of that line, right? So had we included Severna Park, then Annapolis is on the other side of that line. And so working with our consultant that the board hired last year, we felt this was the best way to do it.
If I could quickly follow up, Bob, just real quickly, again, mentioning Crofton and Severna Park, and there is some concern that there's being some sort of protection issued for these communities that they're not going to be able to, they're not going to have to redistrict in essence. And also based on the timeline, the northern is being done first and then the southern 2 years from now. Who's to say that the southern is ever going to be done as far as redistricting is concerned? I mean, it's been a while since it's been done, period. But there are so many issues that parents have concerning equity, concerning the timeline. I mean, how do you address those?
Yeah, so who's to say that the southern is ever going to be done? The superintendent and the board have been very, very clear on their commitment about that. As Mr. Pittman alluded to, we have a responsibility to fill those 16,000 seats that exist in our county. The superintendent has been clear that we can't continue to go to the county and the state and ask for money for new facilities or renovated facilities if we don't use the facilities that we have to our maximum capacity. So there is certainly a commitment on this school system's part to do both phases of that. The 2-year gap that you have referenced is for this simple reason, that we want to get the first phase done and get it implemented, right? So the first phase has to include the northern part because of Old Mill West High School and then West County Elementary out in the western part of the county, which will involve a little bit of Arundel. But but certainly there, make no mistake, there is a commitment on the part of this board and the superintendent to do the entire county.
Thank you, Bob. I want to make sure that we keep this moving along. There's going to be tons of opportunity for the school system to comment on the process. So Megan Loock from Capitol.
My question falls right in line with redistricting, and it's a question for both Mr. Pittman and Bob Mosier. Mr. Pittman, has anyone brought to your attention overcrowding in schools, and do you have any comments regarding that? And on the flip side, for Mr. Mosier, will this redistricting process take into the account the existing schools that are at or going to be reaching their capacity limits?
So I can answer the overcrowding issue. Absolutely. I think one of the reasons I was probably elected is that there was a frustration with the way some of the development decisions had been made that resulted in overcrowding, particularly in some schools. I was at Piney Orchard Elementary not long ago, where I think it's the most overcapacity of any school in the county. And it's partly as a result of some things that were done where a large community near there was age restricted. They removed the age restriction. That meant families with kids moved in. And so that whole area, Crofton up to Odenton, is overcrowded. And that's why we're building the West County Elementary School and moved that up and acquired the land to do that. And it's underway. But overcrowding is solved in part by redistricting. So that's a part of the reason that we have to do this.
So, and I would just add very quickly, Megan, to what the county executive said. So as much as we talk about the 16,000 seats, redistricting is equally about solving the issues of a school that it's at 120% of capacity or 105%. So I'd refer you back to the board workshop in January, where they went extensively through some documents that looked at school capacities now and what we project they will look like 10 years from now.
Thank you, Bob. I'm going to take the last question from Ashley Lyons. What's up, media?
Good morning, guys. So I just have another question on redistricting. Will those students being touched twice be shown on the website launching tomorrow, or how will they be told about that?
So the answer is no, because you won't know who's touched twice until we get to 2025 and phase 2. What will be shown on the potential scenarios that we will put online tomorrow are students who would be impacted in phase 1. So you'll be able to, anybody in the county will be able to put their address into this tool that we have built on the website, and it will tell you your current school and then where you are in any of the potential scenarios. And again, I just want to emphasize for everybody in the call, they're not recommendations, they're not options, they're potential scenarios on which we're seeking comment.
Thank you, Bob, and look out for that. That was the last question. So thanks, everyone.